Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Rolka. I want to welcome you to this week's live event. It's enough of that. Happy New Year. It was New Year's Eve last time we got together. I just want to wish you all a happy New Year and welcome back. Getting 2017 off to a good start, I hope. The chat is open. Thank you, Giuseppe. I see that you've chimed in. That is wonderful. From Italy. That is cool. Thank you for all. Happy thank you to all of you. And Happy New Year. Can you explain in detail the engage step in the breathing? Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm happy to explain that. Good afternoon, JC's Radiant Ray. Happy New Year to you as well. Happy New Year, everybody. Hey, I know I normally say these things. The chat's open, so be not shy. Odds are, if you're thinking about a question, someone else is wondering that very same thing. So please chime in, and I'm not gonna kind of dilly-dally in the pleasantries. I'm gonna dive right in. Robret, welcome. Greetings from England to New York City. And Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you. Okay, so the engage section, that's a really, really interesting question. Hello, Heidi. Hello. When we engage, this is sorry, everybody. I will answer your question, Giuseppe. Happy New Year, Fred. Rose, Happy New Year. Yes, thank you for reminding me in your comment, but I remembered. I remembered before I saw that. Susan, welcome. Welcome, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to the live event. Jacob, I'm very glad that the daily warm-ups are helping you. That is awesome. Okay, Giuseppe from Italy, the Pro Audio Rev TV's got a question about the engage step. So when I talk about Apagio breath management, I talk about it in 3 steps. There's expansion, engagement, and then the articulation or singing stuff. So, when we engage, this is such an interesting question because on the surface, the immediate thought about the engagement is the rectus abdominis muscles. So that's like your 6-pack, right? The muscles that are in the front of your body below the sternum. So let me switch screens here so I can see what you can see. So, like, if I back my chair up, you should still be able to hear me. This is my sternum, and these are my abdominal muscles here. So when we engage, these muscles are then going to lift up towards the chest cavity. And that's what's happening when we engage. But you see, the thing is that there's actually more to that engagement than just that. Another very, very important aspect of it is that we maintain the expansion. So once you've expanded laterally and then you begin your engagement, you still have to keep engaging and pressing those ribs out so that the rectus abdominis muscles can have a greater impact on the diaphragm to create the suspension that creates Apagio. I do hope that answers your question. Let's get back over here so I can read your comments. Let's see. Midrigan says, hello, Aman. Hey, thanks. Will you also give FL Studio tutorial about vocal processing? FL. Is that Fruit Loops? I think that's what that used to mean. I don't know if that still means Fruit Loops any longer, or like Fruity Loops, I think is what it was called. Fruit Loops is a cereal in the United States. But Fruity Loops, I mean, I'm happy to talk about vocal processing. I must admit, I never used Fruity Loops. I've always used Pro Tools or Logic. I use GarageBand kind of like in a very kind of rudimentary fashion for my private teaching via Skype. And I recently switched to Reaper, and I could not be happier with Reaper, I must say. But Aman, if you have a question about vocal processing, please type it into the chat. I would happily talk about studio vocal processing or live vocal processing for that matter as well. Mar, hola. You're in your car watching me. That is so 21st century. That is amazing. Fantastic. Sabir, hi Jeff. I guess you already know me and I have already mentioned my condition. Sabine, sorry. Yes. Yeah, the interesting thing about that was that on the video that you left the comment about wanting lower notes, that's a video about getting into your upper register. So I wasn't exactly sure what was going on there, because the point of that video is to make your way through the secondo passaggio in your voice. Now, if you're still skipping down, which can happen when you're new to that register of your voice. Very frequently, I'll have someone, and I'll say, okay, and I want them to sing you, and what they'll do is sing you, and sing those down the octave. If that's happening, wait till later to get started, so that it gets down to here, you, where you couldn't sing that down the octave, and then slowly work your way back up earlier into the exercise, because those exercises work their way down, right? They start high, so you have to wait a little bit in the video, then jump in. It'll play out, rewind, go a little higher, and work your way down. Just slowly work your way up by working your way down. And what that does is it starts to get your ear around the idea of where you're going to be singing. And then you can start working on the technical aspects of making that transition through the secondo passaggio. Nikki9965, what is that? Oh, it's a wave. Hello, thank you. Jennifer Joanne Bloomberg, hi from New York City. In the soprano exercises, it's smooth sailing up to the high C without difficulty on the A vowel. Wonderful. Oh, another question. Right, I'll skip ahead. I always skip back when I kind of do this. So, Drayden, don't worry, I will come back to that. Jennifer Joanna Bloomberg. Then when I tried on the I, ah, or U exercises that you have, it's squeaky and inconsistent and does not behave properly. Why is this, and how can I make it better? Wider vowels can be more challenging through the registration events in our voices. Now, take my voice, for example. If I'm here and I sing A is like it's like the gateway drug of passaggio technique, because it's narrow enough that it helps us stay on the vocal fold, but it's wide enough that it facilitates airflow through the secondo passaggio, through the zona di passaggio and over the secondo passaggio. E is a bit narrower, and so we have to learn to widen it a little bit as we ascend over the zona di passaggio, over the secondo passaggio. Ah and O are much wider than A, and we need to make sure that they don't start getting onto the ligament predominantly, that we don't lose adduction, or which was what the video was about this week, actually. That we don't lose, sometimes it's called vocal compression. For those of that, that I prefer the laryngeal tilt, which I don't really use that language very much. But with the ah and the o, it's much more challenging to retain our adduction of the vocal fold while making a transition from thyroarytenoid dominant singing to cricothyroid dominant singing. So, Jennifer, what I would do is there's some resonance. There's a resonance video. I don't know if it'll go high enough for you, though. However, the soprano range endurance should help with this. And what you want to do is you want to put that A vowel with the ah and the O. So you would get like and that way, the A vowel sets you up for the transition through the secondo passaggio. Then you switch, and you want to try and sing the ah and sing the o vowels into the space that you're creating around a. Let me know if that answers your question. I think that's what you were asking in that question. Drayden. So yeah, sorry, Jennifer. The endurance video goes, if it doesn't go over the secondo passaggio, it goes right up to it. And then what you could do is then switch over to the long scale video, and that goes through it. Drayden Taylor Fontiero. Hey, Jeff. Hello. You're the best. Thank you. Is there a good book or video series, maybe you could do one, to start on your opera singer journey? That's an awesome question. Well, okay, so the thing about this is that when you start really digging deep into vocal technique, the different schools of thought use different language and they use different teaching methods and have different concepts about how to train the voice. So, my advice to you is to give some consideration to whom your favorite opera singers are, and then do a bit of research. Find out the disciplines that they studied in. I mean, it's almost certainly bel canto, but within bel canto, there are different kind of factions and different methods about how to teach it. If you like what's on the channel, then I can highly recommend to you the books by Richard Miller. I think See, the ones that I have are training soprano voices and training tenor voices, but there's another one that's more generic. I don't remember the name of that one. But even if you're a baritone or whatever vocal range you are, the training tenor voices and the training soprano voices address all of the issues that we face when we're learning to use our voices in the capacity that you wish to do. It's pretty heady, but it's definitely worthwhile, and it's kind of a lifetime of learning in that book. I've been going to those books for decades, and I still feel like I learn things from them. And as I said, my channel is derived from that teaching methodology. He took a rather kind of a sort of scientific approach towards the voice, somewhat more technical than others may, and that's what I would recommend. I am going to be doing a video series in about 6 months' time about transitional singing, so smoothing through the secondo passaggio. And if you would like information about that, my advice is to sign up for the newsletter on jeffrolka.com, because that's where that information will come from. I don't do that kind of advertising. I don't talk about those sorts of things that much here on the channel, but that's where you get that information from. One little thing about that, though, the long anticipated guidebook to all these videos here on YouTube is going to be released 1 week from tomorrow, so a week from Sunday. That information, too, is being dispersed via jeffrolka.com. If you are on the newsletter for jeffrolka.com, then starting on Monday, you're going to start getting a series of emails talking about how my YouTube channel is organized, how to search for things on the YouTube channel, how to listen more carefully to your voice, and how to ascertain different things with the vowels and the reason why the vowels are in the way that they are. A bunch of information. Even if you don't want the guidebook, you can always unsubscribe at the end of the week, but that way you can see those videos and get the information that's contained therein. And of course, if you want the guidebook, then at the end of the week, it'll tell you how to do that. Ellie, Katie, how does lockjaw? Ooh, if you have lockjaw, then you need to see a doctor. Because if you have lockjaw, then it's going to be very, very challenging. I hope that you are okay. Please tell me a bit more about that. Aman Dembla says yes. I believe that means I answered the question. Gerald Ryan, hey, Happy New Year to you in the Philippines, if I remember correctly. Happy New Year. Burning the midnight oil. My hat is always off to you. I appreciate that. Jake, 3048. Any tips on preventing falling out of the mixed voice up into pure head voice, or falling down into pure chest voice, losing the mixed voice quality of balanced resonance? How can I improve mixed voice? Endurance in the mix range. I think it might just be labeled endurance. But usually when we have issues with falling out above the secondo passaggio, there's two main contributors to that. One is our technique below the secondo passaggio. So if you're singing there, if you're too heavy to allow the cricothyroid muscles to elongate the vocal fold, you're going to get stuck in your thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, and you can very quickly get just the ligament and get that falsetto approach. And then you slam back into your chest voice when you finally get so low that the ligament can no longer support the pitch. If you're above your break, however, and then you're getting airy, you're sliding off onto that ligament, you're probably not singing through the pitch. You're not keeping the airflow well supported enough or consistent enough. Alternately, if you're getting that, then you're not keeping the sound placed properly. There could be too much motion in the tongue, or you could be kind of covering the tone, going for like a legit tone. You're going to have to do a little bit of self-assessment in order to ascertain exactly what's happening there. If you're just sliding off onto the ligament, try singing those exercises with your hands over your head, or get into the lean position. There's a video called The Lean. Try that. Lean up against a wall and see what's going to happen. And or I should say, lean up against the wall and then try the exercises. I got distracted because I saw Lord of the Rings at the bottom of my screen, which immediately got my attention. So lean up against the wall and then see what happens. If you're leaning up against the wall and you're staying in that nice resonant mix area, then that's a really, really good clue that you're not maintaining sufficient airflow. Nikki9965 is talking to Allie Katie about her lockjaw. Greg is in the car too, having a 21st century moment. That is so cool. Salman Khan, I'm afraid I can't read that, and it didn't translate it for me. Jeff, help me out about an art song and other language song. I'm helpless. Right. Oh, right. You got to use the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet. If you Google it, you can find it very, very easily. You might be able to find the song that you wish to sing written out in the IPA, and then you can put the two together and get the sounds correct. For those of you not familiar with the IPA, I'm not talking about Pliny the Elder here. I'm talking about the phonetic alphabet that singers use in order to sing in languages that they don't speak in. And it's a whole series of symbols and then their phonetic equivalents so that you can learn to make the sounds correctly. And it makes it so that we can sing in languages that we don't speak. Mrs. Webster is sending out a Happy New Year to everyone. That is very kind. Happy New Year to you as well, Mrs. Webster. Marco, hello, Jeff. Happy New Year to everyone. Marco is saying Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year to you too. Sabin, my audition is near, and can you give me your Skype ID? Just get in touch with me via Voice Lessons SF, and we can sort all that out. That's the way to contact me that way. Giuseppe, you're very welcome. Mrs. Webster, I'm singing a song in a language unfamiliar to me, having a hard time memorizing the sounds in sequence because the phrases are so similar. Any suggestions, Jeff, or the vocal community? So that one's open to everybody. Please feel free to chime in. You know, I would start by writing him in. So take your sheet, make a photocopy of it, and then write the phonetic sounds in above the words of your song, and then work to just it's going to be practice and trying to memorize those sequences. There are different, and if it's purely a memorization question, there are books written about that. I cannot. It's been a long time since I've had to work specifically on memorization. What I would suggest to you is that there are different modes of memorizing things. There is the rote method. In other words, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. There's the visualization, where you try to memorize what it looks like memorize a mental image of it. And then there's also what I think of as sort of brute force memorization, where I'm going to stare at it and just take it in a granular fashion in order to remember everything. And it's basically kind of like creating a dialogue around it, almost like a set of instructions. I'm going to do this vowel first, and then I'd go to this vowel, and then I go to that vowel, and then after that I sing this. And usually, for me, and it may be different for you and for the rest of everybody else, usually in a very extended piece of music, I will employ almost all three of these methods at different times. So there'll be some things that I'm just memorized by rote, where I've sung it or played it so many times that it's sort of, people would call it muscle memory, but I always feel a bit funny about using that phrase. All three of those things will get used in the context of memorizing a really long piece of music. Karina Chen, please explain what formants are, Maestro Jeff. Thank you. I remember we had this discussion a while ago. The one that I remember reading about it too, and right now it's just outside my consciousness. What I can talk about is the singer's formant, and that is a frequency band that's about between 2,000 and 5,000 hertz, depending on the vocalist, and it is that formant that gets emphasized. It's a resonance. One might say it's an internal equalization of the voice, and that's where our projection comes from. And it works whether you're using a microphone or whether you're singing without one. The singer's formant is what opera singers employ in order to be heard over an orchestra. And curiously enough, if you look at the frequency, like a frequency spectrum, an analyzer of an orchestra, they have a dip in frequency right in that area. So the vocalist just fits right in there. What it sounds like is I always found it quite interesting, because there's very little change in the quality of the voice, but you notice the projection of it so much more. If I sing normally, I would sing with it. If I take it away, I'm still in tune and everything seems fine, but you notice it's not as brilliant. And I can put it in halfway to give you some context. So there you go. That's the singer's formant. Mrs. Webster, it's Passing of the Elves from Lord of the Rings, so it's in Elvish. And you're singing the soprano line. That's so cool. Um, yeah, I would just get in there, man. It's gonna be a slog, but that's what it's gonna be. Is some of it's gonna be rote, some of it's just gonna be you're gonna have to memorize the picture, and other times you're gonna have to intellectualize it. Um, but please, others, just jump in with memorization tips. Shayak, how long is it good to practice all the exercises every day? Is more than 3 hours, 1.5 hour each session enough or damaging? Well, it depends on how you're doing it. That's going to determine whether or not you're, you know, doing good or doing harm. If you're doing an hour and a half a day, 5 days a week, and you're still healthy, then you're most likely not doing any harm, and that's very, very good. If you're getting sore, hoarse, or anything like that, you might want to reconsider how you are approaching the lessons. Um, the thing is, though, is that, you know, with that amount of time, like I would suggest that you shoot for more like a half an hour, 45 minutes on vocalizations, and then get on to music. I mean, uh, I enjoy vocalizations. I really, really like them, and I find them intriguing, and I love teaching and listening to how people sing them and how I can help them to equalize things and get things in alignment so that they can take more advantage of their voices. But when I sing, I don't exclusively vocalize, like I sing music too. So I would say, rotate through the exercises. Do a couple warm ups, do a technical exercise, spend a half an hour or 40 minutes working on the technical aspects of your voice, and then get onto your music. Start studying your pieces. JC's Radiant Ray, I often sing in a high soprano voice. Is there a way to keep my voice from carrying in a quiet setting like a Catholic church? Well, you can always lean it towards the cricothyroid um, dominance, depending on the range of your voice. So that's a bit lighter kind of approach to things. That being said, there's always going to be a minimum volume that you're going to create at a certain range. So, and be consistent. For example, if I want to be consistent, that's about the volume I'm going to make. Now, I can stay consistent and be a little bit softer. Much softer than that, and I'm going to start getting a little bit of a shift in the timbre leaning towards cricothyroid dominance. I can make up for a little bit of that with resonance. But at some point, you get below that threshold of staying fully adducted. And the timbre changes quite a bit. So yeah, it's all relative. It depends on where you are in your range. You can certainly play back on the singer's formant. Keep it out of the mask. If you bring it back a little bit more, for example, the second one was with the formant, the first one was without. So by way of comparison, that still had a little bit more affectation than I wanted. There you get that lighter cricothyroid kind of voice. I've removed the singer's formant, and so it's not going to project nearly so much. That'd be I think those are probably pretty good starting points. Heidi, singing in foreign languages is difficult. I'd work on vowels first and insert the consonants. That's an excellent suggestion. Thank you. Thank you for chiming in with that, Heidi. And that goes out to Mrs. Webster, I believe. Robret, A is my least favorite vowel. I'm glad you are discussing use of it. I feel I lose control when ascending in the exercises. Any tips? Put it put it with E on the descending part. So E, as you transition through, allow yourself to have a little bit of that sound. E. It's not entirely A at the fifth scale degree. E. That's going to help you stay on your vocal folds a little bit more easily. And then you can narrow the vowel as you descend. As you get accustomed to that, you can address the vowel modification at the fifth scale degree. Now, keeping in mind that above the secondo passaggio, there are no pure vowels. You're always going to have a slight modification to that vowel in order to keep adduction on the vocal fold. Jennifer, Joanne Bloomberg, yes, thanks. We'll check out the endurance video. Excellent. Robret, I will be signing off, but shall return. Awesome. Karina, can you demonstrate how to do the cry sound? Is that the same as laryngeal tilt? Not in my experience. Usually the cry sound is a little bit of vocal fry, and that's when people are not staying on the vocal fold in the zona di passaggio. So, like, let's say, and I'm using myself as an example, so it's in my zona di passaggio. Obviously, yours, Karina, I assume that you're female, so your zona di passaggio is almost certainly someplace different. But when people don't stay on the vocal fold, they've gotten into the habit of sliding off onto the ligament, then teachers will often employ a cry sound. That is a hyperglottic sound. And what that means is that it's really increasing the engagement around the vocal fold. You can't sing that way for too long. And it's a sound that if you really can't stay on the vocal fold, then you may have to practice that a little bit. I prefer the oo vowel. You. Sometimes that can still be very challenging. Some will still slide into a falsetto tone production with that. But that sound is a component of our technique above the secondo passaggio. That cry is something that we ultimately have to learn to do differently. So it's something that's a tool that is ultimately dispensed with, unless you're really, really predisposed towards not maintaining adduction of the vocal fold in the zona di passaggio, and then you're going to employ it again and again. But it's much too squeezed to really, really be smooth in its completed fashion. Laryngeal tilt is about the cricothyroid dominant singing voice coming into play. And what it is that they engage and they elongate the vocal fold so that you get a seamless transition into your upper register. When you do it, it doesn't feel like anything is tilting. I mean, the internal sensations, I mean, everybody's going to have their own kind of sensations and how they interpret those feelings. But it kind of feels like an opening. And you can kind of feel that openness, and then it sort of narrows as you descend again. Make your own scene theater on YouTube. What do you think about learning to sing alone with the help of the courses like mine? Is it possible to do it properly and not hurt your voice? Love. Thank you. That's very kind. Yes. Well, I mean, that's part of the reason why I do these live events too, is because I want you to ask me your questions. I want to be able to help you so that you don't hurt your voice. That's why I answer comments on my channel. I'm trying to help, but we get into habits, and sometimes we have to learn around those habits. We have to do something different. If you're causing pain, if you are feeling pain, then you need to stop. My recommendation is to stop and assess what's happening. Why is that hurting you? I recommend recording oneself on a regular basis. If you're experiencing pain, hoarseness, things like that, you might want to do so more frequently. Um, is is a resource such as the YouTube, like my YouTube channel, beneficial? I think it is. Um, I think it's perhaps not for everyone, but then again, we all have different modes of learning. That's why there are different factions of bel canto technique. We all learn in different ways, but in a way, we're all kind of repackaging the same stuff. But we use different words, we explain things differently. So, yeah, I think that the learning on the channel can be very helpful. Certainly, people have expressed a lot of excitement that it's been very helpful. But that's another reason why I'm doing the guidebook, which is going to be available next week. And that's why I'm going to be doing some dedicated online registration event seminars in about 6 months' time. Yeah. Drayden's baritone. Amon, can you tell me what's that thing when a single person is singing at different notes at the same time and the voices are overlaid over each other? How do they do that? It sounds so melodical. I believe that what you're talking about are overtones. And what you have to do in order to achieve that is get the vocal fold to alternate between frequencies or split itself so that it's vibrating in two different modes at the same time. And then you get these different overtones. I can't demonstrate an overtone to you on the piano, which is the easiest way to demonstrate these things. And I haven't practiced overtones enough as a vocalist to be able to do it here with any efficacy. But basically, if you listen like really, really high notes, such as this one, versus this, or this is probably better. This note typically will sound a bit richer sounding, and this one sounds a bit thin. And the reason is because that higher pitch, our ears don't hear the overtones in that sound. Every pitch that you play, we could refer to as the fundamental. And there are a system of acoustic events that occur at regular intervals above any given fundamental. So if I play this as my fundamental, the first overtone would be here, the next overtone would be here, the next overtone would be here, the next overtone would be here, here, and then it starts to get really small intervals. And on acoustic piano, you can demonstrate all that by striking the fundamental, but holding the damper open on the note in question. Excuse me. So that's what overtones are, and that's why things sound the way that they do, because we hear those overtones in the fundamental when it's in a range that our ear can perceive them. Higher up, they sound thinner. Because our hearing doesn't go that high, but to a dog, that note would sound just as rich as that does to us. I can't read that, Salman. I'm sorry. Amon, I want to try those vocals overlaid at each other at different notes. That's cool. I'm sorry, Salman Khan. I can't read that. Susan Taylor, looking forward to the long-awaited guidebook. Excellent. I'm glad. Carlos is talking to Amon. Yes. Susan Taylor, a lot of what is being discussed here is way over my head, so I'm being quiet and listening. That's cool, Susan. Hey, Gerald Ryan. I'm glad you made it tonight. I'm sorry if it's gotten a little bit esoteric. There's some really, really, really kind of cool questions tonight. But Susan, please, if I can help in any way, chime in. And I'm going to start getting going here. I realize I've got a lot of questions ahead of me. Eduardo. Jeff, the video of this week made me think a lot more of closure. I've noticed that to get the sound I want in high notes, G-sharp 4, I have to increase significantly the closure. Is that bad? No, as long as you're balancing it with airflow, you're fine. The only time that's going to be bad is if you're squeezing. Like if you're really, really, if you're trying to belt that, like you've locked in your thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, then you're increasing the vocal fold engagement, and that can lead to premature fatigue and over the long term, perhaps damage. But if you're making a smooth transition, you should be fine. Blue Third Up saying, hello. Rose, I'm an alto, and when I try singing higher, it's always a half sound higher or lower. Um, if you're having that issue, try wider intervals. So what you might want to do is go, hear me out here, okay? Go to the beginner playlist, but find the soprano videos. Or do the higher female videos, or do the videos for females, but do them higher up. And what that will do is that will get you into that range of your voice where you can practice those things. Normally, if you're an alto, I would suggest you drop out there. But in the beginner videos, they're a little slower paced. Some of them they start off with wider intervals, and that's a better way to start the process of refining your intonation when you're having issues like that. Capone wants sweet falsetto, but not airy one, something like Van de Graaff Generator song Refugees. I will have to listen to that. Sounds to me like what you want to make sure is that you're coming at it from a well adducted sound. So if you're I'm talking a lot. And if you want to sweeten that up a little bit, then let it be more of the cricothyroid voice. And you can kind of, when you come at it from an adducted, a chord closed place, then you can dial in how much air you want, if any at all. And I'm kind of flirting with a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Find how you like it. But come at it from the well-adducted place first. You're very welcome, Karina. Allie, every time I open my jaw to sing, it clicks. But I don't know if it is lockjaw, but I assumed it is so. If you're opening your jaw, it's probably not lockjaw. My understanding of lockjaw is that literally the jaw is like, you really can't move your jaw at all. If it's clicking, then what you might have is some problems with your TMJ joint. You need to see someone about that, because that can lead to big problems later if it is not caught soon. But I cannot advise you ultimately on it. But if you're clicking, if possible, see someone about that. Jaycee's Radiant Ray is talking to Mrs. Webster. Well, Salman, that's really not very nice, is it? I mean, really not nice at all. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Susan, I took care of that. I'm sorry that popped up like that. Sabine, I've already told you how you can contact me. Fred from Philly here. I'm still feeling a strain when playing out singing high notes. Can you please demonstrate proper technique? An example song, Old Man. Yeah, I know that tune. Vaguely. I mean, it's been a long time since I've taken a look at it. Neil Young is certainly allowing himself to be in a much lighter delivery of the voice, which is fine. If you're straining when you're getting the high notes, the best advice I can give you is to learn to make the transition. So in the How to Sing High Notes video, you start with that very dopey sound. You. That openness is the cricothyroid dominant singing voice when you're just learning how to use it. Start with that, and then start to try to match timbre so that you get the tone that you want. In the context of Neil Young's stuff, I mean, he normally kind of hangs out in those higher areas, and if he comes down below the secondo passaggio at all, it seems like it's very brief. At least I'm thinking of. I guess he does descend on that fairly short order. But that's the way to go about it, is learn to make that transition over the secondo passaggio. It's going to start with that hollow sound to the voice, and then you can start to make it more full. Brittany, I know it's slightly off topic. What's your story? Where did you grow up? What made you want to sing? How long have you been singing? Oftentimes I find it's a little too focused on us. WBY. I'm not sure what that means, but I grew up in Michigan, just outside Detroit. I guess it all goes back to, I had these 5, I still have them, 5 Beatles LPs, and I'm a only child, just me, and I would often listen to these LPs with this tiny, it was a brown little record player that I had. It was probably horrible for the LPs, which has probably rendered them worthless at this point, but whatever. So I would listen to them over and over and over and over and over again. And I just absolutely was enchanted with it. That was such a long time ago, and it was so early in my life that I barely remember a time when I didn't want to sing or I didn't want to be a musician. So I grew up just outside Detroit. I decided about the age of 13 that I was going to be a professional musician. I went to the University of Michigan and actually studied saxophone performance with Professor Donald Cinta. And while I was there, I studied voice as well. And also had the pleasure of studying music theory privately with Marianne Ploget. And after I finished my bachelor's and master's degrees, I moved to California and continued studying voice, and studied with a bunch of people from the SLS school and studied with a bunch of people from the bel canto school, and kept going and going and going and going, and still kind of am just doing the same thing. So I've been singing for a very, very long time. And what made me want to sing, I couldn't begin to tell you. I mean, I could say it's the Beatles, but I just always remember wanting to sing and wanting to make music. And here we are. So that's pretty much it. Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate that. That was a little distracting, I must admit. Mrs. Webster, your fermentation helps explain my sound so much. Excellent. I tend to sound like a trumpet, which works when a solo, but I have to concentrate on blending with others and not sticking out in a group. Absolutely. Greg, what's my take on female falsetto? Well, it's called flageolet. It's roughly the same. The transitions don't necessarily seem to be as difficult for the female vocalists. I'm not sure why that is, but that being said, I've certainly encountered female vocalists that have significant challenges around the secondo passaggio, just like a male vocalist would too. Mostly, I feel that that's basically it. There's a lot of contradictory schools of thought on this. Some will say that the female vocal mechanism is different than the male vocal mechanism. As far as I can tell, and as far as the anatomical drawings that I have seen, they are fundamentally the same. There are certain performance practices that are more acceptable with the female voice. Perhaps the transition through the secondo passaggio is more that there isn't the vocal change, the shift that males go through. And that may be why the secondo passaggio doesn't always provide such a difficult challenge. So yeah. Maureen, Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you, Brittany. I really, really appreciate that. And I'm sorry it took me such a long time. I got so behind on the comments, and I realize I'm still very, very far behind. Um, but it took me such a long time to take care of that. I will try to be a little bit faster on the draw. But thank you all. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Rose. Jason's Radiant Ray, you're very welcome. I can dig that. People around me seem to like it, but it attracts more attention than you desire. I can dig. Eduardo, there is a great book to learn the correct pronunciation of Elvish. Maybe it can help you. Me Govenemi. So there you go. That's very cool. Thank you, Eduardo. Alberto, great, simply great. This Q&A is very interesting. Thank you, Jeff. You're very welcome. Jennifer, I think Jeff, yeah, I blocked him once I realized what was going on. And I will also report that abusive behavior. Okay, Snow Day Axur. Jeff, can you help me? Every time after singing it hurts my throat. You got to address there's two things that usually typically make that happen. One is that you're being too heavy with the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, particularly as you're approaching the zona di passaggio or the secondo passaggio. You can get away with a little bit of that if your airflow, which is 0.2, is a little bit more robust. So address airflow and address how much weight you're carrying into your high register. If you're not making a successful transition through the secondo passaggio yet, my advice to you is to focus on narrowing and getting your vowels in alignment in a comfortable range of your chest voice, thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, and then start practicing the exercises that take you through the secondo passaggio. That will then get you set up so that you're not straining so much any longer. Jennifer, that's wonderful. Thank you. I'm really, really glad that you're learning so much, and I'm happy to help. Mrs. Webster is saying thank you. The deadline is coming up. Karina, can you make some videos demonstrating bel canto? All the videos are basically bel canto. That's the discipline that this is. That's the discipline, the sort of parent school, if you will, that my training is coming from and what I'm showing you in these videos. These are all exercises, patterns, and combinations of vowels that are used in that technique. Thank you, Soccer is Life. Okay. Eduardo's talking, yeah, like the Tolklang? I'm not sure if that's the book. Search it. Okay. Thank you, Soccer is Life. I really appreciate that you've reported some of that. Mrs. Webster's saying, welcome back to Susan Taylor. Thank you, Mrs. Webster. Snow Day Axur. I've been singing for a year, and now it feels like I'm not progressing. Help. Can you tell me more? Like, what's going on? What are you doing, and what are you doing? Tell me a bit more about that. Eduardo, this was exactly what I want to know. Excellent. Karina Chen, Maestro Jeff, seeing you on Facebook every week on Saturday is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. I am your super fan. Thank you. That is very, very kind. Alberto, is it possible to improve a baritone range? Now I reach F sharp, secondo passaggio zone, but I can't improve and achieve G and A that are very common in blues and pop music. Start from the top down. First way to go about this is to start from the top and work your way down. Super lip trill. You're going to need a lot of engagement in order for the vocal fold to stay loose up there. So start practicing your super lip trill in lieu, like in the places where I'm doing the lip trill in the videos, do the super lip trill instead. And what you might do, and take this slowly, is start doing the tenor videos that are not full range. This will take you right up to that F sharp over and over and over and over and over again, and it's going to help you develop a lot of endurance in your zona di passaggio. So that would be good ways. And again, super lip trill through some of that stuff as well. Soccer's Life is talking about Salman Khan there still. Eduardo, Once again, Jeff, you are amazing. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Karina agrees with Eduardo, which I also appreciate. Thank you, Karina. Rose, excellent. I'm glad. I'm glad that answered the question. Cleo, hi. Just started using your warm-ups. I was taught to bring sound in until the jaw vibrates many years ago. Is this a particular exercise? Is it helpful? Ooh, if you're creating sound on the inhalation, I would be incredibly cautious about that. That is anathema to the way that I have been instructed to teach. It might be interesting for a moment or two as an exercise, but I wouldn't do it consistently. Unless I'm misunderstanding you. Please clarify for me. Jeff, can you talk about low note vibrato? I find that adding vibrato to lower notes challenging to make it even. Yeah, that's tricky. It really requires a lot of balance. As we descend, it's acceptable to allow a little bit more vocal fold engagement and a reduction in airflow. Try increasing the airflow a little bit more so that you get a little bit more flexibility with the vocal fold. So when I'm getting down there, also a little, if you lean towards a little bit narrower, brighter sound, then you can retain more. It's a little bit more vocal fold engagement. We have to make sure that we keep the air flowing consistently. Otherwise, we start getting a really, really choppy vibrato. But yeah, in short, try increasing your airflow a little bit. Too much is not going to work. Think about being a little lighter and brighter as you descend, or at least maintaining proper adduction on the vocal fold so that it doesn't bottom out. If you're pushing down on the larynx to get into your lower register, that kind of muscle tension around the larynx and in the throat is going to prevent you from having a really smooth vibrato too. Snow Day, Aksur. Well, we all have a whistle register. It's just going to be in a different place than like a soprano's whistle register or a tenor's whistle register. So sure, you could learn to do that. I am not particularly well versed in whistle tone singing. What I can tell you is that it requires the epiglottis to cover the larynx, and that creates the aperture that the whistle is created. It is literally like a whistle. It's not so much like the vocal fold vibrating. It's more like a pitch pipe. But I'm afraid that's about the extent that I can help you with. I would imagine, however, that good engagement and airflow is always a good thing to have, and that, of course, is talked about quite a bit on the channel. Maureen. My soprano warm-ups are so refreshing. I mix your warm-ups with various other warm-ups I use. Yours are never boring. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know I got to get some new ones out, too, which I intend to do, if not next week, and then hopefully the week after. Susan Taylor loves the warm-ups with vocals. Yeah, and I want to do more of those this year as well. Brittany T. Wow, that's so cool. I've always been curious about what led you to who you become. By the way, WBY means, what about you? Got it. Thank you for clarifying that. And there you go. Yeah, that's my story in brief. There's of course all sorts of twists and turns and things like that, but that's basically the short version. Capone, that's not the falsetto what I want. I mean softer, not edgy or very bright sound. But one have to listen to the song VDGG Refugees. I will listen to that, and then I can talk about it from an informed position. Maureen has missed something that Susan has written, so thank you for chiming in with that, Susan. Gerald Ryan. Hi, Jeff. Why sometimes I say I have no voice to my live origins, but when I start singing, I have my voice? I'm not sure what you're asking, I'm afraid, Gerald Ryan. Could you rephrase that? Susan Taylor is talking to Maureen Soltar. Diminamer. Hi, Jeff. Do you have any tenor warm-ups that go up to C5? Yes! I've done a couple of your full-range videos and noticed that they don't go up that high. Yeah, they don't generally go that high. Mostly I focus on getting through the secondo passaggio, and then I turn around. But what you can do is, I think the long warm-up, the long scale video, I think goes up to a B flat or a B for tenor, so it's not quite to C5. But the falsetto video does. And so you could certainly use that. But I'm happy to expand and do a bit more of an extended range in the next coming warm-ups. So I will make a note of that and do that in the upcoming warm-ups. Maureen is talking to Susan. Susan's talking to Maureen. And I love the emoticons. It's so cool. Snow Day Xer is doing daily warm-ups. That's excellent. Heidi is talking to Diminamer. I have not. How high do they go? Susan Taylor's got a smiley face. Alberto is saying thank you. Fred is saying thank you for your kind help. Yeah, it's going to be out next week. Shati, Evening Boss, made it late for the lesson today. Hope I didn't miss much. If you did, you can always listen to it because YouTube sends it all out right at the end of it. And I'm just about wrapping things up here, scanning ahead. Oh, wow. That's crazy, JC's Radiant Ray. This person did not appear to be very kind and caring, from what they were saying. Nancy is saying hello. Heidi is saying you're welcome to Diminamer. Hello from Brazil. You're very welcome. I love these sessions, and thank you so much for joining us. I have such a wonderful time, and I so enjoy getting the opportunity to work with all of you. So you're very welcome. It is my pleasure. Nancy has a question. I have a question. So I want to add an accent to my singing. I was wondering how you can growl like Beyonce or Christina Aguilera. The safest way. Okay, so the safest way to do that is to come from a well-adducted sound. And then what you have to do, and I'm not really awesome at this. I was practicing it the other day and I got better results, but I don't have the consistency that I want yet. And I'm hard pressed to describe what's actually occurring. What it feels like is that as I engage more on the sustained pitch, I can actually get the adduction of my vocal fold to separate slightly, so the ligament starts to buzz, and you get that like distortion effect. I'm not getting as much separation tonight as I was the other day, and this is why I haven't done a video on this yet, because I'm still kind of experimenting with it. But you can hear how it's kind of getting a little raspy there as I hold the pitch. The thing is that you've got to start from a well-adducted sound and then cultivate the release to separate the vocal fold and get the ligament to vibrate and get that rasp happening. If you try to force your voice to do this, you're really going to hurt yourself, and I would advise you to steer clear of that, to do it differently. So yeah, but I do. There was a person who used to come to the live chats, and probably stopped because I never got around to doing this video, but I just don't have the consistency with that technique yet, to feel comfortable trying to teach, everyone how to do it. Giuseppe is asking, you do so much for us, what can we do for you? Thank you so much for asking. And someone asked that last week, and I know I didn't have very much to say. Every time that you come to these events and ask questions, you're helping me, because all of this is helping me help you, and that's why I'm doing this. I want to do, I love what I do. Every time you share a video or you share something on social media, it helps to bring more people into the channel, which helps grow the channel. If you have a few dollars to spare, fan funding is always appreciated and always welcome. but yeah, like all of these things, being a subscriber, watching the videos, um, recommending me to your friends or your other singing partners and things like that. All of those things help. And honestly, like I said, these questions and answer sessions are really wonderful. They help me to help you, because I'm going to go back and take all that we've talked about and make more videos, and hopefully they're going to be helpful to you, and you're going to watch them, and that builds and builds and builds, and we make this really cool thing. So yeah, that's what you can do. I hope that's sufficient. If you want to do more, then get in touch with me via my website, voicelessonssf.com, and let's talk about it. Maybe we can figure something out. I don't know. Snow day. Hey, who had the audition this week? Edward Macedo, was it you? Mrs. Webster's asking. Highest note I can hit is D4. How can I hit even higher notes? Like, what exercises do I need to do? If you're not narrow, if you don't have alignment in your speaking range yet, just be patient. After that, go over to the How to Sing in Head Voice video, or go over to How to Sing High Notes volume or video 1, which is for male vocalists, and you can do that. Vermont school practice of focusing in until it goes out. No inhala vocal. Does this help explain? I'm going to have to look that up. And see exactly what the teaching practice is. If I can find a pen. Vermont school practice. And I can talk about it next time. That's awesome. Thank you. Everyone's signing off. Thank you so much. It was such a great session, everybody. Sorry about like the nasty comments for a while there. It took me a while to get down to it, but eventually we took care of it, and that person with that ID won't be bothering us anymore here. Everyone, thank you so much. I do so enjoy these sessions. Had a great time. I hope you had a good time too. I'll see you next week. Take really good care of your voices. Enjoy singing, and I will see you again. And lastly, Alberto, what do I think about smoking cigarettes? I think it's a bad idea. I mean, if you smoke, that's up to you. But I would really, that's not going to help your voice. It might give your voice character. That's the one thing that one person once told me. Take really good care of your voices. Enjoy singing. I'll see you again. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.